All right, so you can find the link to the extension in the comments of the YouTube video. So what you're going to do is the only thing you have to make sure you have before you do the setup is Blender installed on your computer. So you go to the link, just hit the download button, and it will download. All you're going to be doing is downloading a zip. What's going to have in the zip is it's going to have a Blender file. It's going to have folders that the Blender extension is going to use. And so once it's download, I'm on a Mac. This works for Windows as well and Linux. I haven't tried on Linux yet, but all the paths should be the same. So all you're going to do is we just copy this, and you can put it anywhere you like. So I'm just going to go to my documents, and you can create a folder maybe. Just put it wherever you want. And so I'm going to call this maybe Golden Mouse, just somewhere where you remember. And you're going to decompress it here. And so on Mac, I think you just have to double click and it uncompresses it. Windows, you might have to use just right click and I think extract all is the way you do it there. And then, okay, so you have it. Like I said, when you go into it now, here's the Blender file right here. You don't need to use this Blender 1. And then these are the two folders. This one just has kind of some modules that you're going to use for like data. You don't need to mess with any of that. And then local neuron saved. That's when you save off neurons. We'll get to that. Those files that it actually sends to the database are also saved locally on your machine just in case something happens. There's a lot of backup, but this is like the last case scenario. So all you're going to need to do is double click it, open it up, and there you have it. Blender's it should pop in look exactly like this. What you're going to do, you just need to do this one time. Is right here, make sure it says one set Python. It's going to say module. You just need to run that script, and it's going to pop up. It says must exit and reload Blender to config Python. Okay, so that's the first time you ever run this, you have to do that. So we're just going to come up here. We can save it. You can use your hotkeys to save. Exit out, and then we can double click it again. So what that does is it kind of sets the path to your modules that you downloaded. And then watch, if you run it again, it doesn't give you that little box, which means we're all good to go. And so let's see if... All right, cool. So then what you want to do is you just click here and you go to the Final Neuron tab. This one you're going to have to run every time you kind of boot it up, just because I had some issues with running it automatically. So all you're going to have to do is just click on it, make sure it's to Final Neuron. It says tab. You just run the script. It might take a little seconds, and boom, there you go. So now you're kind of done with that scripting, so you can just move it over to the left, because if you ever exit out again, you might have to move it back over and hit run script, so you get this label neurons tab, okay? So just a quick intro into Blender. So this is kind of where you're going to see your 3D objects. What this is the Tools tab. So I have it open automatically for you guys on the Blender file I sent. But if it ever goes away, you just hit T. Like say you accidentally hit T, it goes away. Just hit T again, and it'll be right there. And so if you might misclick something, it'll always be label neuron. If it's not there, you just need to run your script that says Final Neuron tab and hit run script again. Like you can run it again, and it'll reset everything to the default. Okay, and so the other thing you'll I guess need to know, this is where any objects you import will pop up, and you can kind of see them and select them. You won't really have to use it, but just in case you need to know where it is. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to show you is, let's see, let's go to login. So you have to have a specific username that's already set up, and if you want to see the, you can drag it over a little if you want. But say you try just a username you've never tried. So I'll try bshelly20. If you try to log in, you always have to kind of hit enter to make sure it stores that value. You hit login. Okay, it says I was not registered. So all you need to do to go to register is you go here, type in the username you want. It is cap sensitive, and then just your first name. So my first name, and then your last name, and then this will register you. So you have to hit enter and then submit it. Okay, success. So now watch when I log in. Boom. That is, it says welcome. I'm now logged in. Because the reason is it makes all these other functionalities available to you. Because watch this. If we go and we were to log out, so now I'm not really logged in anymore. If I try to add a neuron or add a personal neuron, they're all grayed out because I haven't logged in, because we need to keep track of who's doing what to what neuron. Okay, so watch it. You can actually see it when I come back. You only need to register once. When I come back and log in, all this stuff is available now. Okay, and if you ever want to log out, just click there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do the first one. So on the first way to import a neuron is to do it by its ID. And if you scroll it over a little more, it says neuron ID. And so the one we're going to use today to practice is this one. So I have the benefit, I can copy and paste, and I'll put it in the link. So you can copy and paste it if you want. So the neuron ID is this guy. So as you see, it's still grayed out. You just got to hit enter, so that value is kind of stored, and then get neuron. So the deal with this is the longest step because it's kind of retrieving all the mesh data. So if it says, you know, Blender not responding, or it gives you the spinning wheel or the blue spinning thing on Windows, just give it a second. It's working. Definitely is the longest step. This will be the what'll, you know, limit you and how fast you can label your neurons. I'll give it a second. There he goes. So it says found it. All right, so it found it. That's in case we entered an incorrect value. It'd say not found, try another. But it found it, so we're good. So we'll just import this neuron. All right, this is another kind of long step. It's doing a lot of things behind the scene. Just be patient. Okay, and there we go. So now, to give you more space, we can just scroll this pretty much over. So what it has is it has a mesh of the neurons. So you might just want to close these just so they don't distract you. So when you do your editing, you always want to be in the neuron tab. Okay, so there's this concept of object mode and edit mode. So we're in right now. It loads it into object mode. Object mode, you can't really do any labeling. And you can actually see right here what mode you're in. So we're in object mode right now. So the deal is, let me show you some Blender ways to navigate. So say you wanted to, you know, orbit and zoom around and look at this neuron. The keys are just hold the middle mouse button if you have a mouse, or if you're using a laptop, 2 fingers can kind of just zoom around, and you can orbit around. If you want to pan, so move up, down, left, or right, it's just shift plus the middle mouse button you just have to press, or you do shift and then the 2 fingers can move it up, down, left, or right. And the other is zoom. Zoom, you just roll your middle mouse button, or you pinch with the laptop. And so say you are messing around with it and you want to get back to where it started, you can just hit reset view, and there you go. That's where we started from that. And then all you have to do now, if you want to start editing, is just hit continue editing. Okay, so this is when it's going to convert it to edit mode. Okay, so edit mode is a little clunkier because it has to render all these like little faces. So if you use your zoom in, you'll notice it'll probably be a little slower. And so the deal is, say you're looking at stuff. There's these little faces and the rendering's really slow. So my best suggestion to you guys is whenever you want to navigate to a specific spot, don't enter edit mode and then navigate. Instead, what you want to do, watch this. You can exit edit mode, and you'll notice zooming in is way faster in, let's see, like say I wanted to zoom in over here. It's way faster, and like navigating is way faster in object mode. And then once you're where you want to be, then you hit continue editing and go into edit mode. Will save you a lot of time and frustration. And as you can see, there are these little faces. Let's see. It's kind of hard. So say I got off track. Now that we're in edit mode, let me introduce you to edit mode. So number one, it has who's logged in, what neuron, and then the last time this neuron was edited. So the last time it was edited was, if it's never been edited before, it has the time you kind of pulled it down, which it looks like it was 11:58 for me. And then status, there's only two types of status. There's partial and there's complete. So partial is when you either pulled it down and haven't edited at all, or you may have edited some but you're not all the way done. And then this just says confirms that you were the last user to edit. That feature is kind of just redundant because you should be only able to edit your own neurons, but that's just a little check to make sure. Okay, so say I get off track and I zoom and I don't know where I am. You can always hit reset view, and boom, you're back there. So this brings us into how to actually edit the faces. So there's a couple options. I'm just going to show you my favorite and then give you a couple others. Is that, so if you want to select everything, you can hit A. A will select everything, and you'll see it, whatever is selected will be in orange. And then, let's see, so A, again, will deselect everything. And so there's a couple things you can do. So the two I'm going to kind of teach you are, if you really wanted to select each face by face, you just hit the right mouse button, or for laptop users, you do 2 clicks, 2-finger click, and that will select a specific face. But the easier ones are this. So the easier ones are if you hit B, your cursor kind of turns into this, and it will select anything that's in your box you draw. So you just hold down, draw a box, and it does take a little second sometimes. Now everything is selected. Another way to do that, so if you don't want it selected, just toggle A. A will deselect everything. Okay, and the other one is there's kind of a more controlled selection. So if you hold the control button, you can actually just draw, watch this, you can draw around any specific spot you want, and it will select all of the neurons. And so as you notice, actually, if I were to kind of orbit around, let's see if you guys can see. Yeah, I was selecting actually neurons underneath my, so everything that was like underneath my selection was selected, and that's because this box says visible only selection is unselected. So whenever this is not selected, it means, hey, anything under my selection, so like I'll reset my view, anything under that thing on like the back side, it's also selected. But say you only wanted to select the front side, you click this. I wouldn't recommend it because even neurons or even faces on the front side have trouble being selected when this is set, but it's just an option Blender has. But leave it unselected for most of the time. The other is this hide label button. Okay, so what this does is when we are about to label it, if we have this checked, when we apply the label, it'll actually hide all of those faces that we've already labeled so that we know what we've labeled and what we have yet to label. Which brings us into the labeling buttons. All you have to understand is there's a remove label button. I would stay away from this, and just if you accidentally label something you didn't want to, hit Control-Z to undo it. But that is an option. It's for, say you get too far down the road to use Control-Z. you can just remove label, and whatever you selected, it removes any labels from it. And then you just have your different labels. This print label is more of a debugging thing. You don't have to worry about that. And so what happens when you label it, it stores it in the internal data on Blender, and then it gives you a color that's associated with the face, so you know you've labeled it. So let me say I'm going to label this as, I don't know, it's probably not right, apical. Okay, so what's going to happen, because I have this checked, it's going to go through and it's going to label all the faces, and then it's going to hide those faces from me so I know I labeled them. And so this does take a second sometimes. These are like the kind of most intensive steps. Boom. And because I labeled it, it's gone. It's good to go. If you want to see it, watch, you can untoggle this. If you want to see it labeled again, it won't show you the color in edit mode that well. If you zoomed in a lot, it would show you the color, but because edit mode's kind of clunky, it shows you this black because there's so many little faces there. So I'm gonna just leave it as keep. I'm gonna leave it as keep hide labeled. And then the best way to kind of view the colors is to exit edit mode. So we're gonna go to exit edit mode. And there you go. That's our blue right there. And to continue edit mode, we just go right there. And so you can edit as, with as many colors as you want. So now say I want to select this part. I can go right here. Maybe I know I missed some like right there, but that's fine for demo purposes. And you guys should be doing this along just to get the hang of it. So maybe I'm going to label that oblique. Let's try that. Just give it a second. All right, and then maybe I want to label the last stuff. Let's do, oops, oh, I didn't want do what I wanted, so watch, you just reset your view. Let's try just selecting the rest of this. Oops, I missed it. I can just hit escape. Let's try this. Dun 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 dun. Okay, so all this should be selected. Okay, so now I'm gonna go, let's do Axon. I don't know, just fake labels. All right, we'll give it a second. Okay, yeah, the more faces you highlight, the longer it takes. So now that we're done, let's go to exit edit mode. Let's make sure we kind of got our colors, man. Okay, awesome. So that's good to go. If you ever want to check what color's what, you can always watch this. You can scroll on here and go to materials, and you can see what color matches what. So like, yeah, we labeled that axon, we labeled the first thing was blue, was apical, and then oblique. So everything kind of labeled correctly. Here's the last step. Say you're done labeling. All you have to do is go down the Neuron tabs where most of the stuff, once you import it, happens. Is that you come here, you need to label as either partial or complete. So we're going to label this as complete because we're done. If you weren't done but you needed to, like, you wanted to save it or something, you would label as partial, but we're going to do complete. And once it ungrays this, and we're going to send it to our database. And it's going to save it as our labels with our username at what time we labeled it. So if you had one that was saved as partial, but then you re-downloaded it, labeled some more, and then upload as complete, it's going to overwrite your partial one, but you're still going to have those local files. And those local files, let me show you. So it deletes it. It assumes you're done with it. And what you're going to do is go to your folder. So I stored mine in documents, and I think it was golden mouse. Yes. And so you're going to go right here, and you're going to go to local neuron save. So what this is actually this is the labeling of what you just did. And this is what it sent to, this is a NumPy array. This is what you sent to the database, but also for backup, it stored it locally. So the beauty of this is, say something happens, you can go to load local neuron, and you could just say load file. You just navigate. So I want to go to, let's see, I'll go to my documents. I had golden mouse right there, local neuron saved. Okay, boom, you just hit that, load file operator. This may take a second. It's like it's uploading the neuron all over again. And there you go. That is exactly what we labeled, and that's a local copy, okay? So you could, if you wanted to, load up your local copy again, edit it, and then send it to the database by hitting the save button if you wanted to. Or you could just check it, okay? So we should check it's there. So the deal is, so say we just wanted to check it's there. We don't want to save it. If we want to get rid of this neuron, you can click this delete neuron. There's a couple ways. So you could come here and you could type in the name of the neuron. How do you know the name of the neuron? Number one, it's written right here. Or, so you could type it in, you could say, 25412499405 hit enter, and then we can hit delete neuron, and then just ask us if we're sure. So this will delete the neuron. Or what you can do, actually might be even easier, is you can just right click here and say delete. So either one. This is like a little more checks to make sure you actually want to delete it, because if you're labeling something and you delete it, it doesn't save off anything. So I'll just show you delete neuron. Yes. Okay, it's gone. So that is kind of how you import the neuron. So the last kind of couple features I'm going to show you are, let's see, what happens, let's see. What other options for loading neurons are. So number one is you can actually add neurons once you upload them. They're attributed to your username. So you can look at all the neurons that you've previously edited using this add personal neurons. All you have to do is, these are grayed out until you choose one of these statuses. You have to choose, do I want to look at my complete neurons, or do I want to look at the neurons I said were partial? And like I said, if you edit a neuron, label as partial, but then edit again, label as complete, the only thing that's going to be in the database is the complete guy, or the last edited one. So we labeled ours as complete. So I hit complete. Look, that's our neuron. So if we had more neurons we had edited, it would just be a longer list. So it's still grayed out. All you have to do is go and select it. Be like, that's the one I want. Okay, yeah, that's the one I labeled. I'm going to import that neuron, and that's how you load a personal neuron that you've already labeled and that's already been attributed to you. So even if you pull down a neuron, it's going to be automatically labeled as partial. So say something happens, you can download it. So this is, again, a step that takes kind of a little bit. Okay, so here's the deal. Here, this was exactly that neuron that was also, so it's kind of showing you the one that was saved in the database, which is the one we just got, matched the one that was saved locally, which is the one we just imported. So they're kind of backups of each other. So now if we wanted to, we could continue editing it, and say you messed up, okay? So say you don't want any of those edits. You can uncheck hide labeled. And there we go. So that's our whole label. So we can actually hit A if we wanted, which will select everything. And then we could do remove labels. So say we wanted to remove everything, we could just remove that label, all those labels. And what should happen, and this might take a while because we have all the faces selected. What should happen is all those colors to be stripped, and you could kind of start over again if you wanted to. Hopefully you won't have to do this a lot, but this is just showing you can kind of re-edit it. And so now let's we're going to exit edit mode. There you go. Yep, now you're set. So say we wanted to go in and continue editing this. Say we reset stuff and I just want to do this. Let me hide that. Highlight that as Soma maybe. I know it's not, but. And right now, look, I don't have the hide labeled thing, so it's going to label it, but it's still going to be there. So now I'm going to just click that button to say hide labeled. And then you're going to exit edit mode. Boom, there you go. So now, so say we had previously listed as a complete, but then we had to undo stuff, and then now we only have some of it labeled. So let's save it as partial, and let's send it to our database. Okay, so this take us just a second. Okay, awesome. So just to show you guys, if you go here, look, the one I just saved, it popped up right there. That was another one that it backed up. But the thing is, this has two of them, but they were the same neuron, same username, and I listed one is complete, one is partial. The database is only going to save the latest one. So if you go back up here and you go to your personal neurons, if you go to, hey, complete, so that one that we had labeled complete, I just kind of overwrote it because, you know, I saved it as the same name. So now it's because we didn't want that one anymore. We labeled it as partial. There you go. That's the one we wanted. Yeah, and I could re-import that if I wanted. I'm not going to do that. The last thing I have to show you is this button called Next Unlabeled Neuron. And you can close these. Is this one, what it will do is it'll just pull the next neuron that you have not ever pulled down before or ever labeled. And so you just have to click this button and it'll kind of tell you what neuron it ended up pulling down. Just give it a second. Alrighty, there we go. So this is a scrap neuron, I think. You can zoom around. Yep, definitely don't want to do that labeling wise. So hopefully you won't ever pull any scrap ones down for you. But say you didn't want it, all you're gonna do is watch here. You can right click. This was the other way to delete things. Right click, delete, and there you go. Okay, so that covers the whole demo of what this is. So let me just show you, now that we've set it up, let's kind of just save it. Let's say you save it and exit it. Let's just exit this. It'll save your setup. So whatever it looks like now, when you open it, it'll look like that. So let's just exit out. This will be, what I'm about to demo, is a typical workflow that I expect you guys to use. Probably like it'll be the fastest. So just go to wherever you saved it. So mine was in Documents, Golden Mouse, and okay, that's where I saved it. So this is what, we've already done the setup, so you don't need to do any of that setup stuff. This is what it may look like when you boot it up after you've done already the setup. So This is just like kind of an overview. All right, so you load it up, loads up great. All you got to do, you notice the Neuron tab isn't there. You just slide it over and you say run script. It's going to run it. Okay, so you say it went away somehow. It's just that you click in here, you hit T. Okay, we'll get it back, and there you go. So it should, you'll have to log in before. So I'll log in as my user. All right, and then I'll probably, let me get another neuron to try. So I'm going to get this neuron. Okay, there you go. You have to enter, get neuron. This is the step that obviously takes a while. Just be patient. You can text, tweet, Instagram, all that stuff while you're waiting maybe. Or do productive things. That works too. Okay, so now we can import it. So it would give us an error. There we go. Okay, so this is one to play around with. This won't be one we're actually editing. So say let's go in. Let's edit this. I'm using the control. I like the control lasso one the best. And just like I said, look, the hide is labeled, so that's kind of what I want to leave it as usually. Let's just say this is apical. When I label it, it should go away. Awesome. Exit this. So now I'm going to label this. Let's save it off. Let's just leave it as partial, and let's send it to the database. There we go. And so now, if you look, if I look at my local ones, that is the one I just did. And if you even wanted to check, you can come here to your, we're done with that stuff. I can go look at the ones I labeled as partial. And it looks like I got a lot of labeled as partial now. So that's good. Because this one was the one actually I pulled down, but then I didn't label. So like I said, whenever one you pull down, it'll label it as partial for you. This was the one I just did, and this was the one at the end of the first part of the video that we labeled as partial. Awesome. And then if you're done, all you got to do is log out. You might just save it just to be safe, and exit out. So there you go. Hopefully that helps.